I never anticipated standing at my bedroom door with uncertainty, not because my keys were lost, not because I missed anything. I was frozen by terror of what or who was beyond that boundary. That night I was paralyzed. I softly touched the doorknob, anticipating and feeling. My heart raced, echoing across the hollow hallway. The silence around me, it has many unspoken words. The silence that surrounds you and amplifies your thoughts until they demand to be heard. I had no idea my world was about to change. Without warning, there was no time to prepare. Just a second. A brief, forbidden discovery. That moment stirred emotions I hadn't felt in years, though I didn't fully understand why. Logan, who had become part of our blended family, you must understand something before your thoughts swirl. Deep emotions and complex connections characterize this story. It's emotionally rich, lacks appeal, certainly not easy. This story moves you, the type that makes you think about your journey in the dark. I'm not evil. This wasn't my plan. I didn't want this, just a woman. She had lost touch with the warmth of being seen after an eternity of seclusion. Logan really saw me, jumping ahead in the story, transport you to another time. Not to the exact time yet, but to my trip here, that door. Uncertainty remains. Decision made. Have you entered a flawless-looking home? A neat driveway, lush lawn, and brilliant flowers on the porch. Under the surface, it feels like a group of people putting on a show. My heart was there. Husband preoccupied with work. Who addressed me as a coworker? Who had never contacted me? It moved me deeply. In nearly 2 years, each week I recorded his glances at me. I lost track of everything. Finally, Logan arrived. He is polite and considerate at 19 and has a gentle dignity. He moved in after issues with his mother. It wasn't my job to pry, so I kept quiet. He sometimes had a deep stare. It felt like he was carrying an invisible weight. Isn't it fascinating how pain sufferers can recognize each other? Still, I kept my distance. I thought it necessary. I was his stepmother. I fed people, clean. He was asked about courses. I followed my route. Until that awful night. That one moment. When I saw a moment not meant for me, it took my breath away when I met Logan in a vulnerable moment. What could have made it harder? What deepened the wound? Was that related to me? I wish I could say I left and forgot. I wish I could say I resisted him. Many thoughts I want to share. However, reality is more intricate than it appears. If you felt alone, surrounded by others but feeling absolutely alone, do you ever feel disconnected from the woman in the mirror? Ever desired for a momentary connection so much that you were afraid? You may eventually understand how everything came together. Let me know if you've ever carried a secret that haunted you daily. If you've ever wanted to speak up yet feared others' reactions, hit like to show affection. New to Shocking Infidelity Saga, we explore genuine stories that test your ideas of love, trust, and family relationships. Join our loving community by subscribing. Understanding and kindness are valued here. Let me convey you to that unforgettable evening. To the hall. Quiet moments. I hesitated to open the door. They did it anyway. My expectation was that stepmomhood would bring warmth and closeness. A gentle embrace. A kind atmosphere. Helping someone grow. Helping out. Nurturing refuge. However, it appeared like another checklist item. Get groceries. Handle laundry. Contact Logan. Smile at the dinner table, even in the silence. 38 years old. We've been married 7 years. I once considered myself lucky. My spouse, Mark, has accomplished much professionally. He looks after family. They made sure we had a good home, reliable automobiles, future protection, and a strategy. He seems to have abandoned me long ago, probably not meant to be personal. He may have gotten lost. I no longer feel loved in your arms. How can he talk to me without checking his phone? How do we sit together such that it feels like a connection rather than just two colleagues in the break room? His time away from home is extensive. Work trips, gatherings, meetings that become romantic nights. He occasionally sends a message to check in. He sometimes falters. I was most upset by the house's utter silence. From division, not harmony, Logan settled in the house, deepening the quiet. Logan is 19 years old. Previous marriage is son of Mark. He was never meant for our daily life. He followed his own way while navigating a complicated relationship with his mother. Their wordless event hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. He was moving boxes and putting things in the guest room down the hall before I noticed. Early on, I was overcome by emotions. He's not my kid. My sense of obligation persisted. I started cooking more family meals, putting loving notes on the fridge, asking about his classes despite a shrug or silence is fine. His gentleness and attention were always evident. However, he was really sad. It felt like he carried a responsibility beyond his age. I occasionally noticed him watching me, not inappropriately, just unexpectedly. He seemed to see through my veneer. Perhaps that caused my greatest fear. I felt like Mark had forgotten me, not the real me beneath the mask and fake smiles. No, not the woman who cried in the shower and needed to release unspoken emotions. Logan said nothing. However, his quiet was heavier than Mark's. I wasn't excluded. It welcomed me warmly. The house exacerbated unsaid feelings, a nine-fitting spacious clean. Everything works as intended. A well-positioned picture frame. A place like that might feel comfortable and warm. It felt more like a frozen place. It felt like we were performing, afraid to face anything real. We had 3 chairs at the dining table, yet there was an emptiness. Each piece of food gave Mark a break from his thoughts and feelings as he scrolled through his emails. Logan concentrated on his plate, ignoring the situation. What about me? My smile was warm. It would be light chat. I asked about everyone's day. After that, I would silently stack the dishes while thinking. Just like previously, I sometimes stood at the kitchen sink with the sponge and looked out the window, the plates clean, deeply contemplating, emotions churning. I let the silence envelope me. I can't pinpoint when everything changed. Logan went from an unwanted shadow into my heart. It could have been his thankfulness after dinner, even when others were mute. He noticed even little changes, as if I changed my necklace or parted my hair. Perhaps he noticed me? Not how men look at women, not now, yet how someone looks at another, seeing their cracks. There was no love. That wasn't longing. The moment of understanding. That sort of thing. Focus that captivates. You're surprised by its unassuming approach. It makes you realize what you've missed, what to do to relive that feeling. I got home early one night. That happened unexpectedly. My meeting was canceled again and Mark was away. Driving into the driveway, all of the lights were dark except for Logan's window upstairs' mellow orange glow. The house remained silent, as if waiting for something to happen. I slowly opened the front door, trying not to disturb the serenity inside. Perhaps I was reluctant to announce my return. Uncertain. Under my feet, the flooring groaned. A creak in the silence reminds us that some times should be private. As usual, the living room silently saw the moments shared within its walls. The sink is empty, a rare home tranquility. There was a silence around the TV. Just that delicate whisper of quiet that appears to watch your every step. I went upstairs wondering if Logan was doing his schoolwork or sleeping with the light on. A sound attracted my attention as I went onto the landing. Not melodic, silence persists, something deeper. Gentle, melodic, whispery. My emotions rushed. I told myself that respecting his boundaries was crucial. I forced myself to progress gradually. However, something stopped me. He had a slightly open door, just a little, just enough to provide a hint of that soothing glow into the hallway. I overheard something inappropriate, enough for me to comprehend. I planned not to invade. I never anticipated anything. Before my intellect could grasp, my eyes noticed it. His fingers moved under the blanket while he lay on his bed, back slightly curled. His laptop screen lighted his face, spreading a familiar, frigid light across the room. I felt like my lungs were robbed in that moment. Not his actions. He saw it unfolding. It was me all along. Myself. It took time to settle in, because it was from the past. A video I forgot, now returning with fondness. Years ago, Mark and I, one of those private moments we captured during a brief night of intimacy when we felt the spark. I absolutely forgot where we stored it. I thought it was gone forever. It was before us. Logan stayed focused on the scene. Looking at me, I stayed mute. Lost in thought, she stood there. Cold to the core, I had a strong want to run in, grab the laptop, and yell in rage. The part one wanted to alter froze. I recoiled, my breath catching in my throat and my palms shaking with fear. The hallway closed up on me, thick with unspoken words. I quietly closed my chamber door, feeling like I was entering a familiar haven. Then everything changed. I stayed put, and thinking. My mouth was dry, heart racing. I felt deeply. Disappointed beyond measure, transgressed, overwhelmed with emotions. There's more to consider, I hesitated to label. Because Logan watching me wasn't the hardest part. The emotional impact was the worst, unfazed, not disgusted. However, understood, in quest of. That made me deeply disappointed in myself. Trembling, I sat on my bed trying to manage my emotions. What prompted that video? How could he find it? Did he know I saw him? Was he hoping I noticed? I tried to rationalize it as a mistake. He found it suddenly, It was meaningless. I knew the reality underneath. His look seemed profound, nearly full of unspoken words, gentle, intrigued. I felt like more than his stepmother. I snuggled up in a comfortable robe that night, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, contemplating, replaying the moment more than I saw. The emotions I felt, because something changed, despite my attempts to dismiss it as a passing moment. I knew it was the beginning of something more. I feigned ignorance the next morning, warmth spread across my face, steaming coffee filled the cup. I offered Logan toast. He agreed as usual, respectful, serene, like nothing was wrong. Yet everything felt wrong. Not anymore. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, watching my cup steam, my stomach twisting with each instant. He maintained my eyes. He didn't contact them either. As usual, we ate in silence, the air heavy with unspoken words. That may have exacerbated the agony. The unknowing. Did he know I saw it? Did he feel shame? Was he hoping I noticed? Was it just a mistake? A tragic twist of fate? I focused on forgetting it all day. I cleaned up already organized regions. Bookshelves are painstakingly reorganized. Our home seems organized and comfortable after the pantry was lovingly reorganized. When I closed my eyes, it plagued me. That photo stirs emotions, that poignant moment. Him, looking at me. Maybe it was curiosity, I thought. Perhaps he found the video by chance. Perhaps he acted unknowingly. I gained more insight as I lingered in that moment. Not at all. All was connected. It was planned. My deep feelings worried me more than that realization. Despite the confusion, uncertainty, and guilt, a strange exhilaration persisted. I felt ashamed for what I was feeling, and I knew I had to confront those emotions. But it existed. A strange flutter in my chest seemed like something had woken up. I noticed previously overlooked details. Maybe I just ignored them. Logan stared intently as I grabbed for something from the bottom cabinet. He stared at me as I cleaned up in the kitchen after dinner. His eyes moved deliberately, neither rude nor forceful. He seemed to see me again after so long. Once I saw it, it was unforgettable. It seems like an eternity since someone looked at me with such compassion. Once, Mark did. Early in our marriage, in the beginning, everything seemed new and promising. He sometimes sneaked up behind me while I cooked dinner, embracing me and kissing my neck. He disappeared between years 3 and 4. Perhaps he stretched out to me briefly, a soothing shoulder touch, gently touching the arm. Rigid, empty, a touch that expresses deep understanding, a tacit acknowledgement of connection, as if to say, I realize our tie, so here's my devotion. Logan's gaze were not emotionless. Once I understood it, I felt his presence more. I felt his presence before I could look back as he entered the room. His footsteps were weighted with unspoken messages. Gentler, he spoke softly, like if to reveal a secret to me. Not just nearby. What about me? I changed too. It looked inconsequential at first. My innocence, I assured myself. I let my robe drape more in the morning. I made breakfast in tank tops instead of large t-shirts. Not for him, it was never about him. I repeated that thinking to myself. But deep down, I knew it wasn't the reality I wanted. I dressed differently, be patient, with more care. Choose fabrics that fit the body well. As I knew he was close, I paused by the entrance to enjoy the moment. Untied hair. Shower heat stays on my skin. I deeply regretted my behavior. Still, I persisted. I kept my look when we met, those 2 lingering glances across the kitchen or down the hall. Should have. However, I did not. Instead, I craved it, wanting that connection, that emotion. My long-lost warmth returned, bringing back memories. Not about him, it started out otherwise. I focused on my experiences, about feeling vital again. Someone seemed to get me. However, remorse overcame me every night as I fell asleep. This was wrong. This is deeply unfair. My husband's son. If we never had a profound bond, even though we lived together for a few months, that was irrelevant. However, the line between acceptable and unacceptable had blurred. It touched deeply. Transforming. Clarity is becoming harder to find. Each day brought me closer to that moment. Glances tell tales. Start with simple moments, pure moments from afar. They lost their innocence when examined. As I carried bags home from the grocery, I felt exhausted. I was surprised when the door opened as I wrestled with the keys. Logan, dear? He started silent. We barely touched as he carefully pulled the larger baggage from my arms. Though brief, it touched me greatly. Like a glimmer of optimism or curiosity, a silent inquiry we both felt but dared not ask. He brought them into the kitchen and laid them gingerly as if they would break. He stared at me intently before saying, "You don't have to face this alone." 6 meaningful words. All it was that, however, they stayed with me because Mark stopped speaking that way. Mark trusted I would handle everything: shopping, cooking, cleaning, planning, and smiling. Logan, at 19, witnessed things my partner of 7 years never did. After that, our interactions changed drastically. They explored their emotions. It started with lighthearted kitchen chats about music, school, and books. He then asked me important questions, shared some of my identity, thinking about my journey, thinking about my life before marrying his father. He heard me when I talked. No, not with the faraway, half-hearted glance Mark gave me from his laptop. Logan was completely present as he absorbed every word, came closer, looked at me. I felt understood by their responses. I watched for it with hope. For him. Mark left home again one evening. As I sipped wine in the living room, the soft sounds of an old movie evoked nostalgia. Logan entered the room, paused, and sat at the couch's end. Our quiet was long. I sat quietly contemplating every moment. Suddenly, the mood changed. They kissed tenderly on screen, gradually, with intense desire. My body tensed up, looked away from him. I declined. The air around me became heavy with unspoken words and emotions. I reached for the remote a few moments later, excited. He arrived then. Our hands touched. We contemplated, just long enough to matter. He removed his hand. He mumbled, "I'm sorry," with sadness. I shook my head but didn't say whether it was okay. Can't bring myself to do it. Simply wasn't. So it was. Connections became more frequent after that. Additional, intentional. A brief contact as he offered me salt. He touched my arm as we lingered in the hallway, the air dense with unspoken thoughts. Gentle pat on my back as he moved aside to let me through the door. Minor moments, easily justified, but I kept quiet. Some part of me wanted them to continue. My desire to find him was strong. She lingered in the kitchen longer, hoping he would come down. As the sun sets, walk across the garden with expectation that he may be close, leaving my bedroom door slightly open. Then the music started. The first one was in a book one dropped on the couch. 5 rushed words in a jumbled handwriting. "You're deeper than they realize." I stared at it for what seemed like an eternity, contemplating it. A few days later, the second one appeared behind the kitchen counter sugar bowl. "Your presence should be felt, not just observed. I'd start my adventure with you if I could turn back time." Every note constricts my heart with emotion, with great need, not guilt. Wanting something that was always remote, something I shouldn't want. I kept them in a drawer with faded scarves and forgotten birthday cards. At night, when the world was quiet, I read them like sincere notes from a life I'd never lived. I knocked Logan's sketchbook over while cleaning the living room one afternoon. I never meant to find it. I gently lifted it to put it back on the bookshelf. The page was open. I discovered myself. Drawn with pencil, gentle, thorough. I brushed my hair while thinking on the side of my bed. That moment flashed back, just a week ago. He was watching without my knowledge. Seeing the sketch, my hands shook with emotion. He nailed something deeply personal and authentic. It was like seeing a forgotten part of myself, not the tired partner, not the invisible woman. However, someone yearned. Could it be my imagination? Was he calling for more? I vowed to stay away. It was dangerous. This was wrong. At the edge of crumbling walls, I danced. Still, I persisted. I opened the door wide. I kept the notes. I kept the sketch. I persisted. Each fading moment is gentle, and in our hearts. I sensed its direction. The sky seemed to reflect our agony the night it happened. Thunder rumbled in the distance, evoking warmth and connectedness. The rain hammered against the windows like it wanted to break through and join the chaos within. Mark left home again, this time gathered. I envisaged a warm, bright place I never asked. House vibe had changed. Silent but tense, it felt heavy like it was waiting. Around 9, the lights went out. Everything went dark instantly. Room is quiet, refrigerator hum absent. Dark hallway nightlight shadowed the calm home. Only silence surrounded by rain beating the roof. I lighted and placed several candles about the living area to create a cozy ambiance. The delicate glow of the flickering light brought the shadows to life, evoking strong emotions. My inner turmoil overpowered the distant storm. Logan descended the stairs, his steps heavy with the world. He came downstairs quietly, his presence breaking the silence makes one feel vulnerable. He paused in his footsteps as he saw me, the candlelight creating shadows around him. A slight smile followed. "Are you okay?" he asked. I nodded to avoid making the place feel like a lonely cave. We watched the flickering candlelight on the coffee table from the floor as he sat across from me. It was a touching conversation. It started as a simple meditation on his boyhood as the storm brought him back. He remembered curling up under blankets and imagined thunder was giants bowling in the sky. I laughed not because I was laughing, but because hearing his voice was soothing and real. They then entered a long, comfortable stillness full with unspoken feelings. His look pierced me, and I felt overwhelmed. "What was the purpose of the video?" I whispered. He blinked, swallowing hard and straining his throat. "The one time I saw you truly cherished," I saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. Those comments cracked a long-held barrier within me. I stayed mute. Can't bring myself to do it. I stared at him, candlelight flowing between us, creating a limited yet intimate atmosphere full with unspoken feelings. He extended his hand gingerly, as if I could draw away. He reached out gently, offering a silent moment of connection. I stayed put. As he reached out gently, offering a silent moment of connection, it felt like everything around us slipped away, leaving us alone. Storm, guilt, long silences. We were alone with silent words and sentiments. Unshed tears hurt my eyes. I felt my feelings before they exploded. A tear fell. He softly lifted his hand and brushed it away with his thumb. Then the room went silent. We were surrounded by utter silence. Wait a moment. Then he kissed me gently, cautiously, as if seeking my consent. I offered. My kiss back broke the boundary and everything fell apart. I don't remember standing. I don't remember when we moved from the living room to the couch. The warmth, contact, and breath rhythm stay with me. I felt fragile and important in his hug, releasing everything I thought defined my strength. Here was a vulnerable closeness I hadn't felt in a long time, a confusing intimacy I didn't know how to interpret moved me. In that moment, only deep serenity existed. Without question, drop it. For him. My innermost thoughts to the woman I was and never could be. We slept together in the stillness, the candle flickering softly as it burned down. My heart and body were full with emotion as I stared at the ceiling. I comprehended. I felt it in my bones. When it ended, nothing would be the same. There was no turning back. There's no going back. What happened is undisputed. No reason can cure the pain. We crossed a clear line that split. Lost, I questioned my identity. The next morning, I couldn't look at him. I downed the stairs in my robe before morning, trying to escape the past. After one last flicker, the candle burned out on the table, leaving a pleasant glow in memories. The living room held memories, some warm, some too complicated to revisit. The blanket we loved is now abandoned on the floor. Everything felt oppressive, like the walls were full of unsaid tension. I made coffee with trembling hands. I couldn't drink it. I just wanted to kill time. I felt calm when I heard his footsteps on the stairs. I was unable to meet his eyes as he stood in the doorway, his gaze kind and his lips slightly parted, as if he were speaking. His hopeful eyes almost overwhelmed me. Because hope meant he believed something substantial could come from this. I couldn't let him think that. He lingered, contemplating. Anticipating. I turned my back on him and pretended to focus on the clean counter. "Sure," he spoke softly. "Are we capable?" I interrupted. "Since I'm busy today, it felt odd to speak." Close knit. Cut short. He paused to think. Looked away from him. "Can't bring myself to do it." "Okay," he said after a minute. The room is quiet. Wounded, he turned and departed, leaving a lingering silence. I sank on a stool, heart beating and stomach knotted. I did what? A hollow feeling lingered, one I couldn't name or justify. Deeply heartbreaking, not just physically. I felt like part of me had broken, and I was feverishly trying to fix it with shaky fingers. Throughout the day, I avoided him. If I heard him up there, I stayed below. If I went into the kitchen, I held my breath till life stopped. I thought I was protecting him, but I was really hiding my worries. From him, everything began. From my heart. By our acts. Mark arrived home with mixed emotions as the sun set. His bag dropped with a bang, and his usual, almost too joyous voice boomed through the house. Shivers ran down my spine. He tenderly kissed my cheek, recoiled somewhat. He realized. His smile changed briefly, revealing so much. Still, he stayed mute. He asked what I made for dinner. I served plates to hide the fact that everything had changed. It was completely different. The world felt empty. Logan descended the stairs last, taking longer than usual. He looked away from me. His dish was virtually untouched as he sat across the table thinking. I focused on my plate during dinner. Mark told anecdotes from the trip to connect with his family. Logan's scholastic experiences were questioned. Attempts at humor failed. Our stillness was heavy. Logan retired to his room after supper, leaving family talk behind. Mark stared at me with worry and focus. "Is everything okay?" I said that. "Everything seems too fast, being exhausted." He refrained. He never succeeded. I felt it deeply. That's not enough to blame me, just enough to intrigue. I recoiled again when Mark reached for me in bed that night. I reported feeling sick. He retreated silently. I fell asleep. As I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, I could feel my turmoil gathering like a storm. The days that followed got worse. Logan barely spoke to me. His once warm gaze now conveyed confusion and treachery. I gave him my heart, but he took it back instantly. I let him think there was an opening, then closed it abruptly behind him. Deep calm enveloped him. He was heated. He was simple, pain. That destroyed my heart. I tried to forget it. However, every room echoed our past secrets. The sofa, corridor, the staircase stood ahead, silently witnessing the stories inside its shadows. In the silent restroom, I stared at a strange reflection in the mirror. I lived like a shadow of myself. The guilt was crushing, but the longing was equal. A deep longing to be seen and understood, even in the midst of emotional confusion. No one could hear my thoughts. I felt alone. Definitely not my friends. He's not my hubby. I've lost my identity. So I carried my regrets, unseen by others, but ever present. And Logan. His withdrawal increased. Withdrawn. He seemed to be preparing for my choices. Perhaps he finally saw me for who I am, a lonely lady seeking a heartfelt relationship, even if it hurt. The next morning, I couldn't look at him. In my robe, I went downstairs before morning to escape the weight of what had happened. The flame flickered one last time before extinguishing on the table, leaving a pleasant glow. The living room held memories, some warm, some too complicated to revisit. Our beloved blanket was forgotten on the floor. Like the room was full of unspoken tension, everything felt overwhelming. I made coffee with trembling hands. I couldn't drink it, I just wanted to kill time. As I heard his footsteps approaching the stairs, I felt calm. I couldn't look at him as he stood in the doorway, his gaze kind, and his lips slightly parted as if to speak. His hopeful gaze was too much for me. Because hope meant he believed something substantial could come from this. I couldn't let him think that. He lingered, contemplating, anticipating. I looked away from him and pretended to clean a clean counter. Sure, he spoke softly. Are we capable? I interrupted since I'm busy today. Voice felt weird, close-knit. Cut short. He paused to think, looked away from him. Can't bring myself to do it. Okay, he said after a pause. Stillness. Wounded, he turned and departed, leaving a lingering silence. I sank on a stool, heart beating and stomach knotted. I did what? A hollow feeling lingered, one I couldn't name or justify. Deeply heartbreaking, not just physically. I felt like part of me had broken and I was feverishly trying to fix it with shaky fingers. Throughout the day, I avoided him. If I heard him upstairs, I stayed below. If I entered the kitchen, I stayed until the sound stopped. I convinced myself it was for his benefit. In reality, I was hiding my genuine self from him. Everything began. From my heart. By our acts, Mark arrived home with the day's weight as the sun sank. His suitcase fell on the floor, echoing whispered words and unresolved sentiments. His voice rang through the house, way too ordinary. Extremely hopeful. It made me shiver. He tenderly kissed my cheek. Recoiled somewhat. He realized. I observed his expression change as his smile faded. Still, he stayed mute. He asked what I made for dinner, forced myself to serve platters, hiding the fact that everything had changed. It was completely different. The world felt empty. Logan descended the stairs last, taking longer than usual. He looked away from me. In meditation, he sat across the table with his plate untouched. I focused on my plate during dinner. Mark shared his vacation stories to reconnect with his family. Logan's scholastic experiences were questioned. Attempts at humor failed. Nobody found humor in that moment. Logan retired to his room after supper, leaving family talk behind. Mark stared at me, expressing unspoken emotions. Is everything okay? I agree, it was too fast. Feeling exhausted, he stopped pushing. He never had the guts. I felt it deeply. A sense of discomfort pervaded him. That's not enough to blame me,